The best midnight pug and solo player specs to main. That's right, no more meta for you. You're a solo player. You don't play with anybody else. You don't have friends. You don't touch grass. You just log into this game every day and play it solo. That's right, Greg's from accounting. I'm calling out to you. Everyone who loves to do their delves and their other shit, maybe you just log in together every day. These are the best specs to main at midnight if you're that type of person. Here we go. Let's jump straight in.
I think most people play World of Warcraft the same way I do now. You log in when you can, you try to get your stuff done, pug a Mythic Plus key or two, and just try to have fun without it being such a headache. I've realized as I'm getting older, I don't have the time or the patience to build the perfect group comp, sit in Discord, and play the game like it's a job anymore. So in today's video, I'm going to show you the best midnight specs you could main for solo players and people who mostly pug. And no, I'm not talking about what's S tier on a spreadsheet. I'm talking about the specs that feel good, can carry during chaos moments if need be, and let you make real progress even when you're playing alone in Delves and Prey.
Nice.
Okay, I want to show you guys what I've been playing before Midnight officially releases. It's called Lort, and it's a brand new 1 to 8 player co-op action roguelike that just launched on Steam. It's honestly one of the most chaotic and hilarious games I've played in a minute. You and your friends, you drop into this cursed fantasy world and you start stacking up to 90 absurd power-ups, and you go from a ridiculous goofy character that is barely doing anything into just a full-on god at the end if you power up properly. You swap your weapons, and it's all about stacking these together.
Reminds me of Wizards 101. I don't know if any of you guys played that game. That came out when I was like a kid.
Of course, your mid-run class upgrades. Every run feels brand new and different, and it's just pure chaos. You're reviving your friends, you're blowing up the tutor to rally that squad, and just trying to survive long enough to break the game. So if you want to give this game a try out Lort now. It's on Steam and it's under $10 right now for launch thanks to the discount currently active. That's only live for just a couple weeks now. So click the link below or even wishlist the game to remind you whenever it's on sale and check it out, man. I promise you will not be disappointed. Thanks again for Lort for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back to the content. Starting off first, Havoc Demon Hunter is easily one of the safest specs you can play if you're solo or looking for pickup groups. Havoc is one of the few DPS specs in the game that genuinely feels like it could just take care of itself. You have some of the best mobility in the game, really strong defensive toolkit with all of them being updated this expansion, and more than enough sustain to survive messy situations that would most likely delete other DPS specs. So whether you're doing open world content, pushing delves, or even the brand new Prey system where you're on your own, Havoc Demon Hunter, you're always just feeling solid. This spec is...
And don't forget the mobility. I mean, Havoc Demon Hunter just hops around, dips and dashes, just like any other Demon Hunter spec. So, I mean, yeah, you could easily avoid shit, get out of shit. It's a sustainable class because it's harder to die to floor-planted shit, right? If you die standing in the fire as a Demon Hunter, you've had a seizure. Someone needs to check on you, because it's so easy to dip and dash around, and their damage is pretty decent, always. So I agree with this.
To stay alive and keep moving. I would say in particular, when you do join pickup groups with Havoc, though, they're one of the best specs for simply just how low dependent they are on your team and setups. You don't need the tank to pull a nuclear amount of mobs. You don't need to line up everything with a 1 or 2 minute cooldown. You don't need a ton of group coordination. Even when things feel super unorganized with Havoc, you dash around, you pop some cooldowns, deal your super consistent high DPS, while healing yourself with all your natural leech, and you're good to go. One of the most slept on things I would say in pug groups, ladies and gentlemen, is needing to have consistent damage, not just high sims or trying to peak and hit like 5 million DPS. That's why specs like Fire Mage, Frost Death Knight, and the old Subtlety Rogue, they really struggle in pickup groups because it's too hard to predict what the pull is going to look like. And if you misplay, you're going to suffer. That's why specs like Havoc Demon Hunter, Retribution Paladin, Outlaw Rogue, they're great for just super high, consistent DPS that can keep the pressure up no matter what. Not only
also, there's a tank spec you can swap into. That's true. I mean, if you play a spec or a spec in a class where the class can also be a tanking spec, that's a good point, that you can always swap to it if you just feel like DPSing ain't your thing this season.
That the rotation for Havoc is easy enough to where even if you do mess up, it doesn't feel like your entire damage kit just collapses. It's a very smooth flow spec, and you can recover very easily. I'd say if you're trying to play on your own, you plug in, some Mythic Plus keys every once in a while, your delves, your Prey system, Havoc is easily one of the cleanest choices you can make Very, very self-sufficient, straightforward class to main. Moving on next, we have the brand new reworked Unholy Death Knight. And this can
Unholy
absolutely be a
DK.
solid option for anybody out there.
I'll say right now, Unholy is absolutely pumping. I think they recently got nerfed pretty hard, but they're still pumping. I think they're still going to be okay even after those nerfs. We went through all those numbers and everything that they're bringing down on them, but man, they were doing huge numbers.
Looking for something new. Unholy is one of those specs that naturally checks that self-sufficiency box because you're
Also
by
another
far
class
the
that can
tankiest
tank.
class in all of World of Warcraft. You have great durability compared to everyone else, built-in sustain, you got your multiple defensives. So if you love doing your world quest, pushing delves, try out the new prey system, or just doing solo stuff in general where, you don't have your healer babysitting you, Unholy is a solid option. Now, of course, what I'm about to say is a plus, but it is important to know.
And I know it's not blood DK, but you could still self-heal as an Unholy DK. So yeah, if you're out there doing solo content, first of all, you got all your mobs like just running at shit, so things won't target you as often. And then you can self-heal at the same time. So very like sustainable class if you want to just run around and do solo content with.
It's not as strong as some of the other classes in this
spec.
video, but of course, with Unholy, you do have your pets. You have a ton of comfortability with that as well. Through your rotation now, as Unholy, you summon all your pets, and you deal like 90% of your damage being entirely ranged. So previously, Unholy Death Knight was incredibly dependent on, very large pulls, a lot of like 5, 6, 7 global cooldowns, a proper setup. You gotta apply your Festering Wounds, spread your diseases, get your Death and Decay down, and then you could start ramping. It was awful. Not anymore, though. At this point, Unholy is a couple buttons to get up and rolling. You're absolutely blasting, and you're not a spec that needs to have everything line up anymore. You simply roll into a pack, spread your diseases, get your army going, and then you're off to the races. Now, Unholy Death Knight doesn't have the most utility in the game, I'm not gonna lie, but they have a couple things that can really save a group. You have multiple grips to grip in those caster mobs. You have good AoE disruption. You have your powerful AMZ, which can really save your group depending on the big heal checks on certain bosses. So you have enough to where people would want you, but most importantly, your damage profile is just some of the best in the game right now, and you can pretty much carry any group if you know how to DPS well. Midnight is going to be your expansion where you're grinding solo, pugging keys, whenever you can. You want something that feels durable, consistent, powerful with a brand new rework. I think Unholy is the best spec for you. Moving on next, we have an absolute layup here. This is the Beastmastery.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
Listen, if you're a solo player or you live in pickup groups, this
I
might
think
genuinely...
this is probably the easiest class to quest with in the entire game.
We have a realm to destroy.
Hello, Steel. Thank you so much for that follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge. I appreciate it. Again, easiest, by far the easiest spec to quest with at any point. You got your pets out there. You're never taking any damage. You're sitting there far out, just blasting your arrows. It's always been one of the easiest ones, and it's always been one that, like, I've told somebody if they're new to the game and they just want something, I wouldn't say easy. I feel bad saying easy, but something safe to play as a spec, right? Yeah, make a Beast Mastery Hunter. It's going to be so much easier to quest that way. And yeah, yes, of course, yeah, Unholy can heal themselves. Yeah, why are you asking that, pal? Of course they can. Long-time YouTube viewer, finally caught your stream live. What's up? Yes, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us.
The most simple and comfortable spec you
Appreciate
can
the
play
follow.
in the game. Beast Mastery is all about self-sufficiency because you're never alone. You have your pet that is tanking for you at an unprecedented rate. It holds all the aggro, takes all the pressure off of you, and deals tons of damage. So if you're doing open world quest, farming, pushing delves, or doing...
There are oftentimes, too, where Beast Mastery is the top DPSer. Whether or not it's always, no spec is ever always the top DPSer, but Beast Mastery oftentimes does make the rotation in a season where, like, it's viable. Top 3 DPS.
Prey. BM Hunter is probably the easiest spec in all of World of Warcraft for this. What makes this spec so good at solo content is that you're one of the few
rotation's
specs
pretty
in the
easy,
game
yeah.
where you can walk into something really under-geared, pull more than you should, and still be okay because you've got tools for anything the game can throw at you. Not only that, they're very low dependent on team setup and comp. You don't need some perfect group synergy or great coordination. You show up, you press your Bestial Wrath every 30 seconds, you spam your AoE, kill commands by pushing your Wild
Great
Thrash,
AoE abilities.
and yeah, you're pretty much good to go. That is almost the entirety of the rotation, and it's quite fun, honestly. Once again, I think it's very important to look at consistent and median-based damage rather than, who's sending the highest burst damage with their cooldowns up, because the...
Sounds like a perfect spec for you. Say, what's wrong with you guys? You guys angry today? Everyone get a little bit of hot sauce in your coffee. Everyone's so mad.
Truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, nothing ever goes
I would try
right
Beastmastery
when
Hunter.
you're
Why not?
in
It's fun.
pugs or group content, and you need to be able to do your full DPS rotation consistently while being in panic mode. And Beast Mastery Hunter is all about that. You can do all your damage on the move while dodging mechanics and avoiding all the crap. And I will say, I think Hunter doesn't bring a lot of utility, of course, but they still bring Bloodlust. They have a couple of items of
that's
control.
true.
Just know that you're going into group.
Bloodlust alone is a big one that's always going to cause people to bring you around. And honestly, the whole pet thing, it's a fun mini game. Finding like a new pet in a new expansion. I don't know what it is, but when I used to play Hunter, Hunter was my first class I ever played in this game. And I used to play marksmanship for the most part. And back in Burning Crusade, you still had a pet even when you were a marksmanship hunter. I loved going and getting a new pet in the new areas. I don't know. It was always exciting and fun. You go find the new animals that are in the new expansion, you get a new pet.
To deal damage, avoid mechanics,
Shocker
and not
there, yeah.
die and go about your day. Beast Mastery Hunter is a very easy, chill, you log in, progress your character, log out spec. Moving on next, we have the Retribution
Of
Paladin,
course.
and this is one of the most main character specs you can play if you're a solo player or you spend most of your time in pugs.
In any version of the game, I think Retribution Paladin is the most played spec in the entire game. And for a good reason. Everybody says it. It's very well built, plays well, does good numbers, self-heals, bubble, really good survivability. I mean, yeah, there's a reason it's the most played spec in the game.
Now, what I personally love about Retribution is that it's not all about dealing damage. It's about being the guy in the group that can look at a completely doomed pole set to just wipe everybody, and then you take over and make sure your group doesn't wipe. It's one of the specs in the game that you have just so many panic buttons, not only for yourself, but you have panic buttons for your teammates. And on top of it all, you're still blasting every 30 seconds with your Wake of Ashes burst damage windows. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, pickup groups don't fail in Mythic Plus because your DPS was 2% lower than the meta. They fail because somebody either dies at the wrong time, the tank will pull too many, or your healer falls behind and doesn't call that they're out of mana. Retribution Paladin is one of the very few specs in the game that can literally prevent any spiral in content from happening. You have Blessing of Sacrifice you could put on the tank, Blessing of Protection you could put on the healer.
Yeah, great
ginormous
utility.
off heals with Word of Glory. You have a full health heal with Lay on Hands. You got your bubble to make yourself immune. I mean, you name it, the Retribution Paladin has an answer for it.
It's true.
Now, when it comes to pure
Retribution Paladin, you know what I'll say about them? They're one of those DPS specs that if we all die, you hope that last man standing, that last DPSer that's still alive, maybe is a Retribution Paladin. Because they might be able to finish off that last, like, 0.5% of the boss or something. Because they just have those utility features for themselves and for the group, where they just may be able to survive that little bit more and pump out some DPS to finish the boss off. If the only guy left is, like, a mage or something, or a disciplined priest, you might be dead. I'll be honest, you might be dead. Or some because there's just no way for them to survive that shit. But with a Ret Paladin, sometimes they pull off those heroic moments. Yeah, also B-Res and shit, right? Sorry, Sam, watch the video. There's no blood DK. Of course there's no blood DK, because these classes are also, like, easy to get into and play. Blood DK is highly skilled, extremely reactive, probably one of the hardest classes to play in the game. That's why I play it.
solo content, Ret is also really comfortable for that as well. It's tanky and durable, built-in healing. Of course, the great defensive
It's
toolkit.
usually a mage,
You
but
can
okay.
handle ball-
A mage could survive, but they got to port around, dip and dash, blink everywhere, try to get a ice block maybe long enough to get something off. Yeah, everyone can have the heroic moment. But I'm just saying, when I see that Ret Paladin, the last man stand, I'm like, oh, maybe we got a shot. Maybe he can survive this.
Bosses and elites, no problem. It's one of those specs where you could just run in, press Wake of Ashes, pop all your cooldowns, and everything's going to be dying very quickly. Retribution is just that rare combo of very high consistent damage and clutch utility. It is a one of one, in my opinion, when it comes to DPS. Easy to execute,
class,
very
for
smooth
sure.
rotation.
Well-built spec.
And I love that even when you're not playing perfect on Ret, you're at least doing something useful if you focus on your utility and group support.
Right.
You don't.
One thing I will say about Paladin, why a lot of people probably play it is one of those few specs in the game, or classes in the game, where you can be a tank, a healer, or DPSer. So, like, literally, whatever your flavor of the month is, you can switch and play all three roles of the game in a single class. So that is a benefit for sure.
Don't have to be a god tier player, but if you have a high ceiling, you can do some ridiculous stuff on this spec. Absolutely love Retribution for solo play. They are a pug carry. Next up, if you're looking for a caster, we got to talk about Frost Mage. Now, I know a lot of people are going
Nice.
to hear this and think, oh my god, Mage, I thought they were hard to play. I thought they were, nothing but glass cannon, sky. What are you talking about? But throughout history, yes, that may be true.
I heard the rotation got much easier. So maybe they are one of the easier ones to play now. I heard it got dropped down a lot. Now that's a common thing across the board right now. Everybody's specs, a lot of rotational shit got taken out in this post add-on world. So I think this goes for everybody. But I did hear that for Mage specifically, a lot of it got trimmed down. Frost feels amazing now. Great, yeah. So this is a good one on the list.
Heading into Midnight, though, Frost Mage is easily one of the best solo and plug specs in the game because it has the most control in the game.
Is this a review for Season 1? No, this is the best classes, this is the best specs to solo in Midnight.
Now, some of you may think control is not a big deal, but let me tell you something. If you run a Delve on a Frost Mage, you can run them super undergeared simply because no mobs can never actually touch you. You're kiting them constantly. You have permanent slows up to like 60 to 70% on everybody, and you're just destroying them all in an AoE fashion.
Very true. I mean, a lot of what Frost Mage does, and what this list really is about, Varg, is you're out there playing this game solo, don't have friends, you pug everything you do, Mythic Plus, raids, solo content when it comes to open world content, questing, everything. And yes, Frost Mage is really good at all of that because nothing ever touches you. You could solo mobs out in the open world so easily just by, freezing them in place. You keep slowing them and you're just, blinking around, doing your thing. Nothing ever gets to you, which means that, one, you never die, and two, hey, low repair costs. Your armor never gets damaged because you're never getting hit. You also have your little frosty bubble thing that you put on all the time. Ice block, great for survivability. Yeah, it's a great class to solo. I don't disagree.
It's actually quite hilarious, and honestly, I think it needs to get nerfed, if you want my honest opinion. I was doing tier 11 delves in the War Within on my Frost Mage, which such horrible gear, and dominating them because no mob literally could not touch me. It was hilarious. Now, not only that though, it translates very
also
well
really
into
good
Mythic
at PvP.
Plus. I would say the real problem isn't necessarily the fact that damage is not high enough in pickup groups. It's really the little tangible things aren't being done properly. The everyday things that you should be doing. It's what no one is doing. No kicks are going out. Defensives aren't being used properly. Mobs aren't being crowd controlled on cooldown. Frost Mage is great for this sort of thing. Not only that, when it comes to a damage profile, Frost Mage is nuclear right now. Their damage is out of control for a Mythic Plus environment. It's still good enough to compete for single target as well, so it's really, really straightforward, fluid, and fun. I love that this spec is forgiving. It doesn't require a lot of mastering of the spec to know what's going on. Very consistent. I love the control. I love the utility
I agree with
you
this
bring
one
with your
too.
arcane intellect, time warp and bloodlust effects sort of deal. And I think Frost Mage is one of the best DPS specs you can main in general heading into Midnight.
And one thing about Mage that I'll add on, no, they can't tank or they can't heal, maybe one day, but one of their 3 DPS specs is almost always in the top 5 of DPS, all around. Always. So, whether it's Frost, Arcane, or Fire, usually one of those 3 specs is popping off in any given season. So if you want a class that's always has at least one spec that's super hardcore popping off in Mythic Plus and everything, this is a great one because there's always going to be one of those 3 is always going to be popping off.
Now, next up, another caster that's set to dominate. We got to talk about the Demonology Warlock. Now, I mained Warlock in season.
There's a common theme here. Anything with a pet is really good for solo content because usually the pet is holding aggro. So yeah, of course, Demonology Warlock makes sense. You're summoning thousands of demons to help you fight shit. Yeah, of course it's going to be great for solo content.
Season 2 of the War Within, I'm going to be honest, Demonology felt like I was cheating anytime I had to do solo content like tier 11 delves. You literally just show up to the delve with an army of demons and your Felguard, he is so tanky, it makes things, in my opinion, just trivial. Now, on the Midnight Beta, Demonology right now is one of the strongest single-target DPS specs in the game. Not only that, their whole kit and design pretty much destroys delves in general. So when it comes to the brand new prey system and delves, they're going to be one of the best options in the game, bar none. But because your AoE DPS is still high while you're single...
Greg from accounting going to love a Demo Warlock this season for sure. And every season, really, anything that's solo content like a delve, of course, you bring 50 pets with you. That shit's going to be real easy because you're just going to have the pets tanking and you're just going to be sitting back there blasting shit, never getting touched. So of course, yeah, Demo Warlock, and from what I like, just the visuals of Demo Warlock, it looks like so much fun to play. Summoning an army of demons to kill shit, of course that sounds good.
Target is one of the best. It makes them great for raids and Mythic Plus. Not only that, the spec is very straightforward compared to what it used to be, man. And I think a lot of people, you may think, oh, just because it's a Warlock spec, it's going to be difficult. But in reality, it's actually very straightforward and very clean now. I love personally for Demonology Warlock, you can lock down casters like pretty much entirely alone because you have multiple kicks now with your Felguard, toss, your Axe Toss, and then your Grimoire Fel Ravager talent now, which gives you an extra kick. You also have Shadow Fury, your AoE stun. You bring your Hellstones, you bring your Battle Resurrection with your Soulstone. I mean, I think Demonology is one hell of a spec right now. So you combine the fact that they have elite single target damage, Felguard tanking for solo content, straightforward rotation that's smooth, heavy crowd control for Mythic Plus.
Sure.
They just become one of the most solid solo and pug player specs in the game, bar none. And I think they're a no-brainer if you like Warlock. Moving on to our final DPS spec, we have probably the biggest surprise, and
Makes
believe
sense.
it or not, we got to talk about the Fury Warrior. Now, I know what you're thinking. A warrior.
Oh, what? I'm surprised. Furry Warriors? What is going on here? A full-out melee spec is one of the best solo? That's an interesting... If you noticed, most of these are either ranged, or they're like a super movable dip and dive or survivable melee spec. So, like, for melee, we had Retribution Paladin on this list, and what was the other one? Demon Hunter. So dipping and diving out or surviving. A Furry Warrior, though, typically warriors are a little bit tougher to play because of survivability factor and the fact that you got to get in the face of everything you fight.
You're making the solo content.
That's your
list.
main.
Sky,
Okay.
what the
Let's see
hell
what
are
his
you
reasoning
talking
is
about?
here.
Are you taking those crazy pills? Well, I might be, because Fury Warrior's talent tree just got overhauled. But with that, it gave them so many more defensive capabilities above your average melee DPS that their self-sustain is out of control. They kept Enrage Regeneration as a defensive. There's a ton of talents that amplify Bloodthirst self-healing, so it heals you for a good amount anytime you use it now. Rallying Cry got buffed when you're not in a raid. You have Impending Victory on a mob whenever you kill it, which is a 20% heal. You have natural 6% leech on all your attacks. And then to cap it all off, you have the brand new talent Kill or Be Killed, where when you would sustain fatal damage, you instead fly into an unstoppable rage where if you kill the guy, you don't actually die. Think of it like a Tryndamere ultimate in League of Legends. It's absolutely ridiculous. So if there's solo potential in difficult content such as tier 11 delves and the new prey system is very good, I think it'll translate well in Mythic Plus and solo content such as that. Now, what I personally love about Fury Warrior probably more than any other spec in the game is that you're not sitting around hoping for some cooldowns to come up to deal your damage. You literally charge into the pole and you are ready to throw hands. Fury
I will say something, like as somebody who plays Blood DK, and you guys have watched me PvP and all that shit, it is fun to just go straight into a fucking bunch of people and not be afraid. Right? Just go in, balls to the wall, big mob pull, you don't care, big group of players, you don't care. You're going in because you know you have that max survivability, even in melee. And a lot of people try to get the hell away from you. Sounds like Fury is kind of going to play that way now. It does sound like they have a lot more survivability, which would, bring them up on this list. Again, though, of this list, I would say Fury is probably the hardest one to play in terms of solo content because, again, it is full bore, like melee in your face.
Amazing for pickup groups because you have incredible self-sustain, crazy on-demand damage whenever you need it, good crowd control, one of the best Apex designs in the game. You got Stormbolt, Shockwave, you got your low cooldown kick, and whenever you do have your cooldowns going, you deal some of the highest burst damage in the game. So I think Fury Warrior is one of the best specs in Midnight in general, but I'm going to be honest, I was so surprised by how great they are in solo content. It is really, really just a cherry on top for me. Not only that, you have good utility now, I would think, with your attack power buff getting buffed up to 8%, Rallying Cry being substantially stronger outside of raiding environments, and I think overall Fury Warrior is doing really solid. Moving on to our first healer, we got the Restoration Shaman. Now listen, I'm just going to say it straight up.
The only healer with an interrupt anymore. That's it. It's the only, I'm just saying. You might get invites just because of that now.
If you're a pug healer and you're someone who likes to play solo and just get into LFG, this is one of the safest and most carry-capable specs right now in Midnight. Now, Restoration Shamans, they not only heal at a pretty high level, if you know what you're doing, it stabilizes chaos very well. As we all know, in pickup groups more than anything, things just tend to go wrong more often than not. Pugs don't wipe, once again, because healing numbers are a bit too low or the damage is slightly off. Pugs wipe because everything will just go wrong at the same time. People,
yeah, like some tank running around not knowing what to pull next, so he's pulling shit he shouldn't be pulling. Some melee or a random DPSer gets a knockback that hits him into another set of mobs. Yeah, or interrupts aren't being done properly, right? Yeah, these things happen. These things happen in pugs. He's right.
Stand and stuff. Casts don't
not
get
with
kicked.
me.
The tanks will overpull. Defensives don't get pressed. Restoration Shaman feels like they're built for moments like that. Your Apex talent, Stormstream Totem, pretty much will just full heal the entire group whenever you activate it, so it's one of the most impactful Apex talents in the game. You have great control with Capacitor Totem every single pull, and then you're now the only healer in the game left with a kick. Earthshield and Riptide do a ton of healing for your tank, and you don't even need to micromanage him. All packed up in a very, very simple, straightforward rotation where your buttons feel very impactful whenever you press them. Literally, one of the biggest reasons I even made this video is the fact that Shaman in general just feels like they are pug superstars, man. And I'm looking for an excuse to talk about it. Shaman is so...
Obviously, totems bring utility. Like, that's a freaking #1 positive to bring in a shaman. They're going to put those dildo totems down. That's going to help the group. It's going to help the raid. It's going to help everybody. Of course, everyone loves to see a totem.
Comfortable. You don't need perfect coordination to make your group strong and your kit play out. You don't need proper group play to be built around you or good comms and communication in Discord. You walk into any pug, you bring your insane value with your group buff, you got your bloodlust, and you're just doing very well. So if I'm being completely honest, if you're heading into Midnight where you're dedicated on playing solo or just healing pugs, I think Restoration Shaman probably is one of the best picks in the entire game. Next up for healers, I gotta bring up the Restoration Druid. Now listen, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. I think Restoration Druid is probably the most consistent and just overall high healing per second healer in the game at the moment. And in particular, what I personally really enjoy about Restoration is that you can heal very high while doing everything else you need to simultaneously. So you pretty much, you put your rejuvenations, you pop Wild Growth on everybody, and then you throw your Life Bloom on the tank. You're straight up just AFK now at that point. You're focusing on movement, mechanics, positioning, maybe some extra damage popping in and out of, you know, either cat or moonkin form, and you're good to go. Now,
right, you got your dot heals. Put your dot heals up and then run around. That's basically what you're doing.
Not only that, when it comes to personal survivability, I mean, they're so durable and mobile, it really feels like Druid can survive most situations. Some other healers cannot. I think what's also really valuable is their grouping potential. You got Ursul's Vortex for the AoE crowd control. They have the best group buff in the game with Mark of the Wild.
Mark of the Wild's
Battle
great.
Resurrection. You got Stampeding Roar. So basically, you could just plug them into any group and they will fit no problem. I think Restoration Druid right now is a knockout across the board in terms of just HPS and adaptability for any group. So I really, really like that about Restoration. Moving on to our first tank slot, we have, of course, the superhero Protection Paladin. I'm going to make this...
I will say, Prop Pally, I mean, I don't like to say it as a blood DK. I just want everyone to use blood DKs in their tanking. But yeah, Prop Pally, I mean, so much survivability. So many ways for them to just, you know, they mount up, so they freaking use their little hammer of justice, bounce it off of shit to pull big mobs in. They consecrate or constipate the ground, whatever you want to call it. It's, yeah, they're really good. They hold aggro. They survive. I mean, I could be a hater all I want. They're a good freaking, they're a good tank. And as a spec, again, as a class, you can play all three roles.
Once again, short and sweet. If you're the type of player who likes to tank...
So Paladin's been on here twice now.
Prop Paladin is the safest and most powerful spec you can play at Midnight because you're not just tanking, you can literally do every other role entirely alone.
True.
Prop Pally is the kind of tank that can walk into a messy pug and instantly make it feel organized because your toolkit is built around control and problem solving. You got answers to every problem in the game. You have a ton of interrupts, controls, and silences for caster mobs, so that can never happen. You have some of the best defensive toolkits in the game for yourself, so you should be fine if you know what you're doing. You have the best utility out of any tank in the game with Blessing of Sacrifice, Blessing of Protection, incredible off heals with Word of Glory, lay on hands for yourself or somebody else. And not only that, you have some of the highest DPS in the game too. So yeah, you know what? Protection Paladin, you name it, they got it. So in pugs where, you know, people miss kicks, The damage could be low sometimes. The healing feels a little bit off. As a prop paladin, you can solve every single problem. Not only that, you're one of the more durable tanks now heading into the game with their talent and the natural damage mitigation adjustments. I'm just going to be honest, Protection Paladin is a one of one. There's not a class like it. So if you're heading into Midnight and expansion where you want to tank, carry these random groups, and feel like a superhero, Prop Paladin is the best spec, no question.
Yeah, prop Paladin, yeah, you're going to feel like an Avenger. No doubt. You're throwing your shield around. You got your Hammer of Justice. You're going to feel like Thor and Captain America combined, running around, playing the hero game. Yes, I don't disagree.
About it. And then finally, we got to talk about the Vengeance Demon Hunter.
Oh.
Now, I would say if you want a more aggressive...
So there you go. You got two classes that are on this list twice, Demon Hunter and Paladin.
And modernized approach
Blizzard's
to tanking,
love
Vengeance
children.
is one of the best specs in Midnight. I would say the biggest thing that makes Vengeance so strong is, number one, their mobility
Their DPS
is through
too.
the roof, which means
Great.
in a real pickup group environment and solo queue environment, they can control the pace and push the pace very well, which, believe it or not, is valuable.
True.
And number two, as of right now, their damage and
damage is always
self-sustain
good.
is some of, if not the best in the entire game. On top of that, Vengeance right now is extremely durable, which is crazy. The spec is constantly self-healing, sustaining itself while being very aggressive, high damage, high mobility, and you have a ton of tools to support your group as well. My favorite thing about Vengeance, I think, has to be their Apex talent, though, Untethered Rage. It gives you free procs and Metamorphosis, and you're pretty much just unkillable at that point, and that happens very consistently. So with Vengeance, you have a tank that can push the pace, deal great damage, great utility with Grip and their magical debuff on enemies for caster comps, such as, Vengeance Demon.
I'm being a bitter bitch. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty jealous. I am. The utility of Vengeance Demon Hunter and Protection Paladin, it's freaking bullshit. Blizzard needs to help out Blood DKs. They do. We used to be just the unkillable force, and that was what made us cool. And since then they've nerfed our healing a lot and shit, so it's changed things. We need to go back to full god mode, like the Dragonflight days. We do, yeah. Or even Shadowlands. Like, we were putting out such big dick numbers. Once we got the Jailer's Weapon, what the fuck was it called? The Gavel. Man, we need to go back to those days. We do, yeah. They had to nerf Blood DK because of Sam. That's true. It's true. Yeah, I was soloing the shit out of this game live on stream every day, and yeah, Blizzard had to nerf him because of that. I agree, Cyclone.
Hunter, Augmentation Evoker, Frost Mage, Unholy DK sort of deal, and they're just built to dominate the leaderboard at that point. So yes, if you're looking for a tank that can really push really, really high tier, I would say this one has the highest ceiling. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up this solo and pugging main guide heading into Midnight. Listen, I'm a sucker for playing on my own, and I gotta say, there are definitely a couple classes that made this list that made me rethink my main choice heading into
Den, thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge.
Midnight. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing or check out one of the videos you see on screen here to stay up to date on all things Warcraft. My name's Sky for the Comeback Kids. It's an absolute pleasure to make content for you all. I'll see you in the next one.
No, great video from the Comeback Kids here, and I agree with a lot of it, honestly. And like my whole thing with the classes that can be play multiple roles in this game, it's very true. Demon Hunter was on there twice, Paladin was on there twice, and then you got other ones like, say, Mage or Warlock, where it's always like one of their specs, their DPS specs, is viable. So a lot of this is right. Anything with a pet obviously makes for really good solo content. And overall, nice list here from the Comeback Kids. I agree with a lot of this shit. Nice one.